Traders, this is Christian Farmer, Trade Group, and this is your end of month and end of I was going to say end of day. It's also the end of day recap, but it's also the end of month and end of quarter. How about that, guys? Not a bad way to finish the month and the quarter. Really unusual in my opinion. We just didn't see that, like, drop off in the market activity. The breadth was not, if you want to complain about something, it's probably the breadth kind of weakening a bit. I see a few more traders are kind of noticing that on Twitter, that breadth has not been great. If you're looking at the McClellan Summation Index, both NYSE and NASI are right now in bear crossovers. But I would say, there's a couple things here, and again, none of us have a crystal ball, and we don't know how things are going to shape up for quarter four. But we know that that we are in between the Jewish holidays, which is traditionally on Wall Street it's a tradition like no other. I'm joking with that, but it is a tradition that you're supposed to sell Rosh Hashanah and buy Yom Kippur. That doesn't mean like sell your whole portfolio. It just means like a general theme of that period is weak. Now that holiday will finish on Thursday, and let's see if the breadth improves that in terms of that. But for now, even though September is supposed to be one of the worst seasonal periods, it was not bad. I thought that, comparatively to just other years, this was pretty strong. Now, again, I don't have a crystal ball about what's going to happen in October, but I'm pretty just astounded, and I'm not shocked that we didn't get any major volatility for the end of September, because over the last 4 months, that's just the way it's been. There's just been a lot of shallow dips. There really hasn't been anything that severe, and we just didn't get that towards the end. So, by the way, I have the screen up, and I have rolling on the bottom of the screen. We are having a special for the last quarter of the year. I am excited. I had a very nice month. I'm now up 22% year to date in my trading account. And that's been a big comeback from where I was a few months ago, which was just not great performance this year. The last couple years, I've been very consistent. I think you could see like these certificates in the back. The last in the New York stock in the U.S. Investment Championship, I've been up about 40% the last 2 years in my trading account. So I still have some catching up to do, but I've just kind of been more enthused about the way I've been trading more how I want to. And finally, like, the results are starting to pick up a little bit. So again, slow start, but hey, that's fine. You're going to have, like, nobody's perfect in their trading every single year. And, I got off to a slow start this year. So it is what it is. And I'm very pleased that, and I'll share with you in this video, like, just a couple trades that moved the needle for me for this month. And every month I do an end of month video for members, and I talk about personally, like, how not only how my month went and the best winners and the worst losers, but I talk about, like, the takeaways, and I talk about things that I know that I may need to improve to get my performance to, like, how I traditionally trade. And sometimes you're not in the zone, right? And I felt that way a couple times this month, this year, where I just wasn't ready to kind of take on bigger risk. I was kind of just going through the motions a few times, but it is what it is. You have to get comfortable with what you're doing, and you have to have conviction with what you're doing. So in any event, that's the deal that we're having. I know that the link on the bottom of the screen, I don't think you can copy and paste it. So I will retweet a link, but hey, this is a great special for the end of the year. You're getting 3 months for the price of one. And you're not just getting access to the trading room and to my trading ideas that I put out daily and I put out weekly, and the weekend watch list that I send you guys, but you're also getting access to the MarketWebs. And you do have to be a trading web customer. But provided that you are, in this package, you will get access to the MarketWebs for the last 3 months, which in my opinion is the best the best volume at price trading system out there. In any event, take advantage of that. And I would love to hear what you think, but I think that you'll be happy. I think the majority of people who come into Tribeca Trade Group are really kind of pleased with what we do on a daily basis and how we're pretty methodical and consistent in what we're doing. So in any event, just wanted to go over that with you briefly. Let's get to today's market action. All right, here we go. Spreadsheet. I mean, the breadth was not very good today. The NYSE up volume today was around like 37% in the first couple hours of the day. But like some of these days, not every day, but there's been a lot of days where we just kind of get stronger throughout the end of the day. I also thought I did make some money on the end of day ramp. I think I talked about that in yesterday's video. Also talked about it in my midday note that I would be looking to do some 0-day options, and we got a nice little ramp there at the end of the day. Performance for the day, your best performing groups, healthcare was a big standout. And I was surprised. I really haven't been too much involved in healthcare this year. But names like AbbVie, HCA, McKesson are at new highs. Lilly had a big day today. The administration mentioned mentioned Lilly, and the stock went off to the upside. So really nice move there. And I can't tell you when we've seen the XLV, the healthcare ETF, up 2.4%. I'll have to go back, but I want to say it's been a long time since that ETF has been up 2.4% in one day. Also, what has been consistent this year? Aerospace and defense, up another 1.7%. We've heard from the administration about that too. Yesterday, they were talking about increasing missile supplies. Today, we just heard that they're going to be just ramping up more defense capabilities. So very, very strong for aerospace and defense. And I know that many of you know about like the drone names, which some of them are in there, and some of the vertical flight companies too. So it's not just your traditional defense names like LMT, GD, NOC, and Raytheon, which has been probably the strongest of the group, RTX. But it's also so many more new names that have been involved, and that's that XAR equally weighted ETF. And then the semis came alive today too, up 1.2%. And I think I want to kind of start there. Here were your underperformers by the way, energy giving back a good portion of those gains, or I should say some of those gains from last week, because energy was strong all last week. Let's get to looking at some charts, and I want to start with. What do I want to start with? Let's start with just SPY. I'll get the indices out of the way, and then we'll go on to some more exciting things here. But here's the SPY chart, and this is what the valuary for the month of October is going to look like, right? So we're going to probably start just inside the value area, but we managed to we dipped for a couple days, and here was the shallow dip, and pretty methodical at that too so far. We kind of broke back to the 20-day moving average and reclaimed it. So again, it wasn't not exactly the same as what we saw at the end of August, right here, where we kind of moved down there, and also the end that was the end of July, and here's the end of August, but just similar. Like the end of the months are just a little bit weaker, right? In the beginning of the months, and that's how it's been the last few months. I always think that too, that kind of like towards if the beginning of the month has been strong, usually the tail end of the month there's a little bit of profit taking. But again, I'm just surprised that we didn't see more volatility. Maybe that's coming at some point. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but for now, price is back above the 5-day moving average. I just wanted to show the end of day ramp, right? Typically, you see these types of moves. They're more dramatic the end of quarters than they are just end of months. But even though we were kind of just flat coming into that, this really kind of started at 2 o'clock, and it kind of just continued to go higher here. By the way, right into this VPOC right at the end of the day. Here was the Qs too at the end of the day. Right, nice little ramp there, and again was able to make money on a SPY strangle that I put on. Here's also just the Qs up above the 5-day moving average as well. So again, you could contemplate and you could guess and you could come up with a theory. Has there been, in terms of when we're going to get more volatility? But for now, like, price is doing what it needs to do and stay back above the 5-day moving average after a little bit of a dip. If you want to complain about something, maybe it's been the small caps. They've been kind of stagnant here over the last week or so. But they're also holding that 20-day moving average, and they tested it again. So again, nothing really major as of yet. There's nothing to basically say like, oh my God, this looks horrible. I mentioned breadth is not great. Right? That could be something if you want to complain about. That could definitely be it. All right, let's get to one of the most impressive moves I thought for the day, which was NVIDIA. Remember, just we've seen a couple times where this broke below the 50-day moving average. Kind of looks like a false breakdown in hindsight. Notice how much time this broke below the 50-day moving average. I think I even tweeted this out on this particular day saying, oh, geez, that doesn't look particularly good. But notice, like, I think this is a good point. When you break below the 50-day moving average like this, you don't want to spend a lot of time below it. Right? You want to think of, like, I've been using this expression a lot, but I think it's just how this market has been reacting. But it's like trying to hold the beach ball underwater. Right? You just can't do it for that long. And I think this is the case with the last time when this fell below the 50-day moving average back on September 17th. But here we go. We're back at new highs. And we've seen this before with NVIDIA, where it goes sideways like this. It helps if you do draw maybe a trend line so that you can see the price action moving above. But we've seen this several times where this name consolidates. Obviously, it had more of a deeper dip, sorry, in the beginning of the year. But going back to like this, now this was also a little bit more loose in here, but same thing, kind of went sideways and then resolved higher. Same thing with this one too, sideways and then resolved higher. So again, these things aren't going to look perfect, but when this goes up, it just means it's symbolic that the AI trade is still in place. If you see NVIDIA breaking out to new highs, you kind of have to think that this trade's not over. Which brings us to CRWV, which another contract today. This has not been the easiest name to trade. I've been this and I made money on this today. It did close above 335. Sorry, 135, and my target for this name is 150. But I did on this gap up with the contract that they got from Meta. And this is now like the third contract that we've heard. So, I think that this name should continue to build strength. Like I said, it has not been easy. I actually added to my position in here the other day and, lucked out with an announcement, I did also see a decent amount of option positioning. We saw this on Friday. We saw nice calls that went up in CRWV, which helped me to kind of stay in the position because I don't like when things drop below the 5-day moving average. But I said, hey, it's still holding above the value area. So note the new value area that we're getting above for October. So again, as long as we stay above this 135, then I can begin to kind of position for that 150. So that's my thought process there. By the way, we are going to be doing a first of the month webinar. So again, even if you're not familiar with the MarketWebs, we'll be going over that tomorrow, and that will be included in your membership if you give the 3-month special, where you're basically just paying for 1 month. So you'll get and that member that we're doing tomorrow night is only for that webinar that we're having for members is just for members. Sorry, I can't speak. I'm excited about how the month ended, and I'm also a little bit relieved too, because I normally don't trade the last trading day of the month very well. So I am happy the way things developed here. Let's go to the next big mover today. Holy cow, this BE, right? This is another one, right? It dropped down to the 20-day moving average, right? It had a broker downgrade, brought this thing down. Yes, it was extended, and that's sometimes what happens when stocks are really extended. And it's a reminder to take some profits. Now, I know I don't want to tell anybody what to do. I'm not giving any advice or recommendations. But if you aren't taking some profits on this move up here, right, then you shouldn't be surprised when some little bad news comes in and the stock drops 20%. right? That's just trading, guys. Right now, again, it doesn't mean that you have to take your whole position off, but if you're not trimming a little bit into this move, then again, either, you just shouldn't be surprised, right? When names are going to check back to their 20-day moving average from time to time. And the more extended they are away from that 20-day moving average, right, the more violent that move back can happen. Right. So huge day today, up 15, another one up 15%. This was a write up that I gave for Sunday. I put out a watch list, and I also put together like my favorite setups. Right. So here's the watch list. Right. And we had BE on the list. I had four names that were my favorite setups coming into the week, and BE was one of them. Again, the stock just hasn't been giving that many opportunities for pullback. So huge move today. And this was one of my best trades of the month of September. Now, I did not stay with it. I wish I would have stayed with it all the way to the very end, but it still worked out for me very well this month, and it was a big winner for me. All right, next on the list, I want to just go back to another name. Even though it didn't finish strong, I still think the trend is very good here, and I think dips will get bought. This is NBIS. Right? It did go up to I think 117 today, but this is a name that I would definitely keep an eye on. Right? It got the big contract, I believe, from Microsoft. Right? Here was the dip in here. And I actually traded this in here, and this was a bit of a trading foul by me, as I just didn't hold on to it for this move up here. But very nice price action, and over the last month in this one. CRWV, NBIS. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cryptos. Right? Sometimes I mention I'm going to go over the cryptos in these videos, and I don't. I still think this IBIT. I'm not one of these people who will come out and say, "Oh my God, this is a great setup." Right? I don't know if this is a great looking setup. Yes, it's gone down. It got down to previous support and it bounced, but it's still not doing anything, and it's still below the 50-day moving average. So it's nice to see it gain some traction, but this is not one of my favorite chart setups. I'm sorry to say. Same thing with ETHA, right? A lot of people calling this a false breakdown. Now, it's retesting the 50-day moving average. So at least it's got to get back above the 50-day moving average, right? And then I can kind of get back involved in this. I have owned this a couple times this year. I don't own any now in my trading account. I do have Ethereum on in a crypto account, but I don't. Oh, and I do have this in the TTG trend portfolio as well. But I don't have any on in my trading account, and it's got to get at least above 32.14. Again, I don't need to call the exact bottom, right? That's for insecure people on Twitter who are trying to do that. As long as I'm interested in this thing if that is a false breakdown and it gets back up here and then it begins to trend. Right. I'm interested in, so I'm going to move the chart here. If the name does this, right, and begins to trend and let's say goes all the way up to 52, 55, right, that's where I tend to really make money when things really trend like that. I don't care about the trying to call the bottom and the first turn, right? Now let's see if it's going to do anything. Great, it's bounced, right? Now let's see if it does anything. Stocks that I have my eye on for tomorrow. I do like this pullback in some of the quantum stocks. I mentioned, I think yesterday, that I would love to see this come down to the 20-day moving average. Notice that this stock was down 4.3%, IONQ. And so the stock is coming down and the moving average is coming up. So I don't want to get too cute here. I kind of want to start a position in here, but I'll wait. I'll see what it does tomorrow. At this point, what I would be looking for is if the name starts red and it actually comes back and finishes green on the day. That would be a pretty darn good signal to see if buyers are stepping back in, right? But for now, overbought, right? And again, you have to be careful with social media. Everybody was pumping this up a week ago, saying, what's sell off? Like this name is still on the highs. It's not on the highs anymore, and in fact, it's down about 15 to 20% from the highs. So, guys, you kind of have to some of the stuff that you see on Twitter is not very good. But Twitter could also be a good gauge of sentiment too. RGTI, not as deep of a pullback as INOQ. Again, let's see if this kind of continues to put some type of a bull flag in. Would like to see that 20-day moving average catch up a bit. Robinhood, I talked about Robinhood in yesterday's video and talked about how this is the one to own, guys. You don't have to go looking for the one that is the underperformer, right? And I'm not even going to mention that name again today because it probably got some people mad. U.S. taking equity stake in Lithium Americas. This just did hit the tape a little while ago, so I think we already know about that, but maybe they're just confirming it, right? But this has been the one to own, guys, right? This is putting a lot of damage in names like. All right, let me just see if the stock's moving here, and then I will get back on track. Oh yeah, it did. No, yeah, it is. It is moving here on that news, so it's up to 650 there. Right. I don't think it's taken out those highs, but in any event. But let me just go back to Hood. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the fallacies a lot of times in trading is, folks looking for the next best thing. Right. This stock is up, I think, around like 300% year to date, and the dips continue to get bought. Right. They are the one for now, and this could change, but they are the one who's innovating. Right. Why go into something that doesn't have any of the bells and whistles and doesn't have any of the innovation that Robinhood has? I've talked to a number of people about this, right? Just because some other name, right, is getting pumped on social media, have some fundamental reasons why you're going into the name, not just because of the FOMO that some idiot on Twitter is trying to create. Right? Have some good reasons. Right? They're doing something with the betting markets where look at how they're disrupting other companies. Look at what DraftKings did today. Right? Look at what Flutter did today, which is what's the other one? Right? So they're disrupting. Right? Some of the other small brokerage companies, they're not disrupting anybody. Right? So that's why Robinhood continues to go up. That's why I've been a bull all year long in this name, and it is one of the bigger names in the TTG trend portfolio. So very impressive, right? And I'm not saying that you go out and you buy and you chase this, but I've been encouraging people for the last few months, stop looking at these other small small brokerage companies that are getting pumped on Twitter and stick with Robinhood. Right? That's the innovator in the group. So again, dips have worked really well with this company. I'm going to end the video here, guys, because I do have to do the P&L recap video for members. But hope you had a great September. If you didn't, think about October as a brand new month, right? And try to think about how you're going to be profitable. And my goal always is to outperform the overall market. What are we up, by the way, at this point? Let's see. But regardless of how you did in September, you're going to have to think about how you're going to execute and and what you're going to need to do in October. Right now, the S&P is up about 14% year to date. Qs are up 17. Small caps have been catching up, but they're only up about 10% year to date. For the month, I mean, this again, just a heck of a September for stocks. SPY was up 3%. Qs were up 5% for the month. I was up about 11% for the month. So again, I had a good month. IWM was up about 3% for the month. Guys, have a great rest of your night, and I know it's still middle of the week, but hey, great way to end the month and end the quarter.